Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of MedHeads, MedCity News' review of the week that was in healthcare innovation. This is Neil Versel, Health IT reporter for MedCity News, coming to you live from the Sands Expo in Las Vegas, where HIMSS 16 is wrapping up this week. You can see behind me the big HIMSS logo. There it is right there. I'm happy to be joined today by three guests. We may have a fourth join us who's I think having some technical difficulties, but I have on the on the line right now, Jared Johnson, the host of the Health IT Marketing Podcast, coming to us live from Phoenix. Nancy Fabosi, an analyst for Frost & Sullivan, who is joining us from Denver. And Sean Carroll of Arcadia Healthcare Solutions. Sean, where are you located?
I am actually in Atlanta, fresh off the red eye.
All right. Cool. So I wanted to start by saying, we all survived another HIMSS. Congratulations. And in Sean's case, you survived a red eye. All of you got home safely. Greg and Jared and Nancy kind of had short flights, but I'm here for another half a day or so. There are a couple of things going on, including Peyton Manning's keynote this early in the afternoon. It may be interesting, may not be. Haven't heard a word about whether he's going to announce his retirement or not. Nancy, you're there in Denver. What's the word?
Oh, I think he will probably announce it either today or very soon. I think the decision will be made for him if he doesn't want to do it. So.
Right. But it probably won't happen at HIMSS is what we're thinking. So anyway, I wanted to go through and get your impressions of this HIMSS conference. I do want to say that I have to agree with something that was in his talk this morning. Usually a theme emerges at HIMSS by the second day, maybe the third day. This year they said this morning that there has been no real theme for HIMSS in 2016, and I really do agree with that. We knew that there was going to be talk about interoperability, there was going to be talk about security, there was probably going to be talk about value-based payment, the transition to that, but and there was talk about all of that, but no one real theme came forward. But do any of you agree or disagree with that statement?
I would completely agree. This is my 20th HIMSS, and wow. It was a bit unique with respect to not having that leading theme. Mm-hmm. So I was a little surprised.
Yeah, 20. Okay, this was my 15th in a row. I think only two other reporters have had a longer consecutive streak than I have, although one more has, there's another reporter who has been doing it longer than I have. He just happened to miss a year about 5 years ago. Anyway, so wanted to go around and ask the question that was asked of me and asked of everybody else in the press corps by the press room staff. What was the best, the worst, and the weirdest thing that you saw at HIMSS 16? And I'll participate as well. Who wants to start?
Ladies first.
I'll start. Okay, thank you. All right. So I think in terms of the best things about this conference, I think first of all the location. Vegas is my absolute favorite location for this conference. It just seems like everything is right there. Most of the hotels are walkable. If you book early enough and you get a good hotel through HIMSS, you can, you get a nice hotel that's relatively affordable and walkable. And so that was a pleasure. And I just really like the Sands Expo for this show. Especially compared to last year with the McCormick Center. I love Chicago. Yeah. It's one of my favorite cities. Hate the McCormick Center. So that was, to me, just, the location. Weather, I think, was absolutely fantastic.
It was.
And also, I have to absolutely thank and commend the HIMSS staff, particularly for the press room. I just thought they did an excellent job. It was very welcoming. They had, everything was everything you needed was right there. If it wasn't, they got it for you right away. The food was great. I mean, I was just really, really impressed and really thanked them for all their help with that. And I think the other thing is, there was some good swag this year. I got some nice handbags. I got some wonderful pens. Loved. I think Athena wins the award for the best pen. A beautiful purple pen, my favorite color, and lots of great chocolate. So those were, I think, my favorites for the best thing.
Okay. How about worst?
Worst, I think the worst thing about the show is analogous to the worst things about the industry. Confusing, easy to get lost, easy to go down the wrong pathway numerous times before you end up where you need to be. Just absolute sensory overload, I think, is the worst thing about this show. I think, there's a lot of vaporware out there still. And I think that that those products are going to fall away. As we enter the second inning of this transition to digital health, we've sort of laid the groundwork for EHRs and all the data starting to come together now and be analyzed. And so I think that we're going to enter into a phase now where the unicorns are going to turn into mules. We're already seeing that happen. So again, the worst thing I think is just the fact that there's so much the same, so much confusion, very hard to see a clear pathway.
Gotcha. And the weirdest thing you saw?
Weirdness. I wasn't really noticing anything particularly weird. I guess maybe more annoying than weird is the fact that this still is an industry that is so heavily dominated by men. And I noticed that particularly in cybersecurity. It seemed like, I'm really focused on that this year, and it seemed like when I was in the cybersecurity area, cybersecurity vendors, it was just more than usual, the gender imbalance. So not weird, but annoying.
You didn't experience any sexism, though. Just notice there was a gender imbalance.
I mean, I think we've gotten over the whole booth babe thing. I think that's not as prevalent. Although I did see some women in sky-high skirts and sky-high heels, and and they seem to have vendor badges on. So I was sort of wondering what they were selling.
But nobody was calling you honey or anything like that.
That hasn't happened to me for a long time, so I wasn't saying that. But just, it seems like most of the women that you see are still in marketing and, analyst jobs, such as myself. But, when you really wanted to talk to somebody, get in the weeds of the technology, I don't think I ever talked to a woman in that area. So.
Okay. Now I did notice that I have not seen Steve Lieber all week. Steve Lieber, CEO of HIMSS. Carla Smith, the executive vice president of HIMSS, who runs the North American operations, has been kind of the face of the organization this week, although that may change during the final keynote with Peyton Manning. So I found that interesting. So anyway, I want to jump over to Jarrett now and get your impression. Best, worst, weirdest.
Yeah, thanks. I think best, if I had to sum it all up, I would just say open APIs are kind of the winners right now. Anyone, I kept thinking of the kid who doesn't want to share his toys is eventually loses all of his friends, and it kind of seemed like a lot of companies are starting to understand that. And so the fact that they're bragging, the fact that I was talking with the PR Dan Smith from Cerner, he was bragging about how their Pop Health platform is EHR agnostic, so it can connect with everyone else. I don't think that would have been the case. I don't think it was the case even just a couple of years ago. But that's one of the things they're leading with in their messaging now, is the fact that so they didn't use the word interoperability, but they're all talking about their connections.
Okay, and I have to say I'm gonna jump out of topic here and jump onto another topic, and that's the pledge that dozens of vendors, about 16 or 18 vendors, including Cerner and Epic, as well as a number of healthcare organizations, including several specialty medical societies and HIMSS, and also about a dozen and a half large health systems pledging to get to interoperability, provide greater access to patients for their health records. Now, this was something that was announced by ONC National Coordinator Dr. Karen DeSalvo on Monday at the very beginning of HIMSS during the opening keynote, I believe, or no, Sylvia Burwell during the opening keynote, the HHS secretary during the opening keynote on Monday. The problem I have with that is there's no timeline and there's no hammer if they don't come through. So how do we know this isn't just another empty promise?
Right, there's definitely a line I saw. There's still a lot of platitudes being thrown out there, and sometimes it's hard to know what fell on which line of which side of that line. Which things really are going to happen and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Greg, you want to jump in here? I'm sorry, Sean, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's a necessary step in the process where everyone says, we've got to do this, and all the obvious players have to come together and say, we got to do it. But
it should have happened 10 years ago, really.
Right, because the real work is ahead, right? Yeah. And we're a capitalist society, and these are organizations on the vendor side that have been competing forever. And so working through how their business models have to change to really make this work.
Providers too have to change business models.
It's a heavy, heavy lift, but this has got to happen before anything else happens.
Okay. So back to Jared. Worst of HIMSS.
Worst, I think I could still kind of put it just in terms of there was still kind of a noticeable absence visibly. If I was just looking at, hey, when I look around, there was still kind of a noticeable absence of a clinical community, I felt like, visibly at booths when everyone was, the innovation's there, we're celebrating that, we're celebrating the tools now, but if you had to look at, it was kind of a microcosm to me of, yeah, we're good, we understand what needs to be done, but do we have that handshake yet with the clinical community? Visibly, I couldn't say yes completely at the show this year, so I think that still kind of remains to be seen.
All right. Well, this is one reason why I don't spend all my time. I'm sorry, I'll get back to you, Nancy, in a second. One reason why I don't spend all my time on the exhibit floor. In fact, I probably spent only an hour in the exhibit hall the whole time. Lucky me. Less walking, less craziness. Monday, I love the pre-conference sessions the day before the conference officially opens. There was a medical informatics symposium. There was a nursing informatics symposium. That's where the clinicians were. There was a patient engagement symposium. There was a quality symposium. There was a separate one from quality that was on patient safety, even though the two are often grouped together. There was a lot going on, and hard for me to cover it all, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right, and in terms of, what I would say also about the best of the show is that I did go to some vendor booths where they actually had their clients there talking about their actual experience, and that to me is the most helpful thing ever, because I learned so much from that. I mean, just talking to, these people from different regions of the country and just the experience that they have with the technology. I would like to see much more of that on the floor because it is hugely helpful. I would imagine to potential customers, certainly for people like me, an analyst in the industry, for the press, I imagine. So I really would like to see more of that on the floor.
So maybe it was a marketing question. Maybe they're not thinking in terms of that. Visibly. Is that maybe they are having clinicians in the other sessions, Neil, like you said, and maybe it's just a visible thing.
Okay. Well, let's also, from a marketing perspective, look at the HIMSS constituency. Yeah, it's grown considerably over the years. I think attendance this year was somewhere in the 42 to 43,000 range, which actually was below last year.
Yeah,
slightly below last year when they're talking. But from a marketing, from a marketing perspective, their core constituency are the vendors and the CIOs, and and the buyers, not the clinicians. You don't see a lot of small practices here. Certainly you're not going to get many solo practitioners take work off to take off work for 3 or 4 days to come out here and shop for toys.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay. And Jared, your weirdest moment.
Weirdest was one I actually earned at the New Media Meetup Wednesday night. It's the biggest pin I've ever seen.
All right.
It literally is a pin, and then you can fold it out if I want to keep it on my desk. But it was riding the mechanical bull. That's the only reason I wrote it is because I got the pin with the ICD-10 code on it for being thrown from an animal, I think. I tried to look it up that night, but anyway, they're handing these out as sponsored by Stericycle, and John Lynn was a part of that as well. You know, so it was that community. So
cool.
yeah, they're handing those out. I mean, that's life size, but
yeah. All right, I'm gonna go on over to Sean.
Sure.
Best, worst, weirdest.
Yeah, so I'll modify just a little bit from best to most encouraging.
Okay.
And what I was really encouraged about, obviously the population health thing continues, the spigomorphous, undefined bucket of capabilities and solutions. But what I was really happy to see is from last year to this year, I felt a very palpable difference in how far along the buyers, the CIOs, the people looking for solutions have advanced their knowledge. Last year, it felt like everyone was just kicking the conceptual tire, and this year people seemed a lot more advanced, much more than we see in this particular sector when these big jet stream concepts come along. We sometimes languish in it for years. But I felt a real advancement in the knowledge and the focus for what people are looking for. I think that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
It suggests progress maybe faster than we've seen in other situations. My discouraging or worst, Neil, would be what I would look at as sort of a miss on the cybersecurity dialogue. I felt like it was underplayed, and I really feel like from an industry perspective, you know, we can't ease into this one. It only takes one or two more big events, and we've got a very serious problem that affects everybody.
Yeah.
And we completely miss that in terms of getting that. That should have been the theme, in my view, for this year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And not only that, I mean, the cybersecurity command center was way down in the basement, off in a corner, and I mean, it was much less centrally located than it was last year, which was their inaugural year for this.
Right.
At McCormick. So I was really surprised about that too, because if there's anything that could just blow all of this off track and be the key thing that we are talking about, and only talking about that, is, you know, cybersecurity where patients start dying.
Right.
You know,
And
so,
yeah, and remember, you know, it's been less than a month since a hospital was actually made to pay a ransom.
there's been another incident since,
And there's been another incident since then.
also in California. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Just this week, just past week. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about that if you have any details, because I've been kind of in this Tim's bubble all week.
Yeah, it was. I think it was at it might have been like at a county, LA County health system or something like that. Because I think the first one was at Hollywood Presbyterian.
Yes.
And this was a follow-up ransomware, and I don't know all the details, but it happened, you know, as we were at HIMSS.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's an important point, and I want to say what you said about the security pavilion, you know, in the lower level, which has really, you know, it's kind of a dark, cramped feeling room because of the lower ceilings than the main exhibit hall. I remember the last time HIMSS was here in this venue 3 years ago. I was working for a mobile health publication, and the editor of that actually asked my opinion, and I said absolutely go with it, because the mobile companies were all put down in the lower level. What I went with was HIMSS puts mobile in the basement, to be taken literally or figuratively, and you know, maybe
well,
it's
it might be.
Yeah,
it might be because they've carved out mobile and cybersecurity and some other thing, you know, in another conference that they do in December. So maybe that's a deliberate strategy. They just kind of want to downplay it because they want everybody to go to this other conference. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, Sean, did you have a weirdest moment?
I do. It falls more in the category of irony, but I found it quite ironic that in this moment, the moment of the emerging FHIR initiative and other interoperability concepts that, and of course, what Burwell announced with what we talked about earlier, and all these groups coming together, that I am certain in my 20 years I've never seen more EHR vendors with large walled-off booths. And so the imagery of that I just found to be fascinating in this moment where we're trying to get the walls taken down, metaphorically, and these booth structures, there were more of them that way than ever before. So it's just a funny moment.
That's a good point. And did you notice the unicorn at the Epic booth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always have fun things. That was kind of a
yeah. So I'll give you mine, and this is what I had told the press room staff, and I'll be, it's more of a moments and not themes. The best moment was during the CMS ONC supposed listening session. It was more talking, and the questions were probably pre-approved or pre-given to the moderators who were HIMSS board members. Andy Slavitt was asked, so what do you hope to, as administrator of CMS, was asked, what do you hope to accomplish in the remaining 10 months or so of the Obama administration? And he, without missing a beat, said, "Make America great again." Now, the worst moment for me is one that I just was actually absolutely in shock. The CIO of Ascension Health, huge Catholic health care system based in St. Louis, was interviewing Michael Dell during the opening keynote session on Monday. It was really kind of a boring interview, particularly given that Dell is in the process of selling off Perot Systems, essentially its healthcare IT consulting unit. It's general IT consulting unit, but that's where their big healthcare business is. They're in the process of selling that off, and an announcement could happen any day. And Dell didn't address that question, but when on the subject of social media, the CIO of Ascension Health said, basically, we don't care, or he personally doesn't care, or doesn't pay attention to tweets from patients and and visitors send to the hospital complaining about things like parking or hospital food. It's like, dude, you got to care about this stuff. This is all patient satisfaction. You're being scored on this, by the way, with the HCAP score, among other things, patient satisfaction. I just could. I mean, mouths were open agape in the press room. We were watching a live video feed in there, and I imagine in the big hall, there were some gasps as well. But it was the stupidest thing I've heard all week. It's like, how could you do that? You got to care about this, and I don't want to say, don't want to wish bad things on anybody, but there should be a backlash. There really should be a backlash. Patients should be revolting and saying, you got to listen to us. So, as far as my weirdest, go ahead, Nancy.
Interestingly, one of the things I heard that, again, having the health system, people in the booth, and hearing the stories, heard some great stories about patient engagement with technology, and some health systems were describing how they're actually, giving the tablets to people upon it. Well, they're not giving it. This is one of the issues. They weren't giving the tablets upon admission to the hospital. They were giving the tablets to the patients when they came onto the floor, thereby putting the onus of training the patients to use the tablet and all the apps on the nurses, which was a problem. They should have done it at admission. But at any rate, the story is that within this system in Ohio, they started doing this, and all their competitors had to do it as well, because this is, people love this. They get their lab results. They get apps that help them know who their team members are, all their caregivers. They have communication apps with their family. They have all these different solutions that they can use while they're in the hospital. So, while they're in the hospital and they have an unfortunate or unhappy experience, they're there and they're able to tweet and they're able to do things on the device that the hospital gives them or their own personal devices. So you're absolutely right. I mean, this is going to increasingly become the norm, where people are, have these tools with them while they're in the hospital, whether or not they even use them at home, and you're not going to stop that train. So I agree that they need to get on board.
Okay. And the weirdest incident, probably the live video interview that I didn't realize was actually being streamed live on the web. It's archived. I'll have the video up maybe if I can pull something out of it. I did a live video interview with Jonathan Bush of Athena Health, which I have done every year for the last several years. But he decided to bring in a certain Z-Dog MD with us, and I just kind of felt trapped sitting in between them. It's like I'm looking, it's like, okay, who's going to say what next, and can I actually ask a serious question here? And what's that?
Z-Dog, is he the guy that does the dancing?
Yeah, he's the guy who does the parody videos. He's a Z-Dog, Zubin Damani, Dr. Zubin Damani. He runs Turntable Health here in Vegas. He's actually I think he's backed by Tony Shea of Zappos, who's done wonders for downtown Las Vegas. But he's got a kind of a new kind of medical practice. But he also on the side makes these parody videos.
Yeah.
Which some of which are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I will get that video to you. So we're getting almost to the end of the half an hour here. We can go over that, so that's fine. Any final thoughts on HIM 16, which are obviously it's time to get to work, to get back to work. Although I hope everybody gets some rest this weekend. But we got to get to work on the interoperability part, on the transition to value-based purchasing, on the cybersecurity, lock down your systems. All these new threats out there that, it's not just laptops going missing anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I would like to say that one of the things that I think can unify these themes that we have been dealing with in Health IT and at HIM 16, analytics, patient engagement, population health, and cybersecurity, is a unique patient identifier.
Oh, yeah.
I'm becoming very passionate about this issue, and I was very surprised, because I asked the cybersecurity experts, that I was interviewing how they felt about that, and they were all, they said absolutely we have to have this, and they wanted me to really dig into like why politically this has not happened, and really the whole story on that.
Yeah, and Chime came out last fall and said we need to have a unique identifier. Well, they have an X Prize type challenge, in fact.
But it's a political issue.
It is a political issue.
It has something to do with Ron Paul. I have to look into this, but I look at a unique patient identifier as not only an issue to bring together analytics, cybersecurity, but also patient engagement. I mean, you give people a unique patient identifier, and you can use that as sort of a rallying point around this is your this is your number, this is how you can have access to your information, control information, engage with your health system. We absolutely have to go there. So I wish that I'd heard more about that at HIMSS. I'm certainly writing more about this year.
Good point. No, that's a very good point. It's and just the history behind it. I think it does go back to Ron Paul. It was Congress voted in 1998 not to fund implementation of this National Patient Identifier, which actually was statutorily in the original 1996 HIPAA legislation. So, but Congress just decided not to fund it, and Congress hasn't touched it now in 18 years.
I would agree with. Sorry, Nancy. I was just going to pile on to your statement. I completely agree that's table stakes to getting anywhere, and I think another piece of table stakes is the new payment models. We've got to lead and drive those payment models, because I think that is the unifying concept on the business side that is going to allow many other things to happen, followed by data aggregation and harmonization. I think all those three things are what get us to a different place, and without all three of them, it's just really going to be tough sledding.
Do any of you have an opinion on FHIR, Fast Health Interoperability Resources, which is supposed to be the savior of interoperability? It's an HL7 standard that was just finalized really late last year.
I have a view. I think it's a needed improvement, particularly in how it will accelerate deployment and not make interoperability such a heavy lift I still have concerns that the depth of the combined clinical and claims data that is needed to really succeed in value-based care, it is not so much about the expediency and efficiency that FHIR brings. It's more about the depth and getting to all of the data. And I'm not sure FHIR is focused on that quite yet. An improvement, but maybe not what we really need in the end game.
Okay. All right. Now, final question, as we do every week on MedHeads. I'm going to go around the horn and ask each of you for what you thought was the most interesting story to you this week in healthcare innovation, and specifically health IT. Well, it doesn't specifically have to be health. And tell us what you thought. We'll start with Jared.
Yeah, sure. Mine was John Halomka's article that he shared in MedCity News, actually, about innovate or die, essentially. That buzzwords are dead and that it's all about innovating at all costs now. And he spoke about how we've got to convey that to clinicians and vendors, and and I would add the empowered patient community as well, the patient community overall. That it's there's a real resounding message when I spoke with many of the social media ambassadors, at least from HIMSS, that they all recognize it's time to move past the echo chamber and all nod at each other and say what needs to happen and actually help clinicians and vendors all realize what it will take to make that happen. And so that theme of innovation or die, I love it. So that's probably going to be my theme for the rest of this year. And anyone I speak with is you get on board.
Okay. Nancy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was something that happened during HIMSS, but not at HIMSS, and that was Super Tuesday. And I have not really been paying attention as much as I probably should have to all of the different candidates' proposals for health care. But now I think we can safely say that we're going to have a Democrat in the White House. I'm going to look very carefully at what Hillary's proposing. I don't think the Republicans have a snowball's chance in hell. So I'm going to look at what Hillary's going to do, and I'm going to, have some positions on that to advise our clients, because I think that's where we're going to end up in November. So.
There's our first election proposal in MedCity News all year. So thanks, Nancy. Prediction, not proposal. And Sean.
Yeah, I think my shout out on the innovation side doesn't go to a specific technology or person, but rather the growing number of collaborations between providers and health plans. And while it's still really early days for that, I'm seeing a lot more of that. I saw a lot more of that. I saw folks going into booths and talking about how they're working with their plans and their markets around value-based concepts and how to drive new programs into those markets together. And I think that collaboration is critical to truly getting to population health level impact. So I think that's a trend of innovation. Some may say it's required, but it's still at this stage it's innovation, given how hard that's been to come by of late.
Okay. All right, the story I'm going to pick, I'm going to go outside the box a little bit. Something else MedCity News reported on. My colleague Nicole Aran is at the Scripps Future of Genomic Medicine conference in San Diego right now, and she got to sit down yesterday with Dr. Patrick Soon-Chong, who said that immunotherapy essentially is a losing battle. He said that if we continue to focus our cancer research on immunotherapy, we've lost the war on cancer. He's obviously all about personalized medicine. I thought that was interesting. I think he's really going all in on personalized medicine, obviously, and genomics and analytics. I do see a bit of some really heated competition growing between his Nant Health and IBM Watson in terms of the kinds of companies they're acquiring and the type of work that they're trying to do in improving healthcare outcomes.
Yeah, actually, I got to speak with him just for a few minutes on Tuesday, and same thing. I would agree. And his he's communicating that it's all about it's the protein, stupid. But it was kind of a good introduction to me to proteomics and all that as well. I agree. A lot of potential there.
Yeah, well, I'm still trying to figure out all that stuff too. I do not have a science mind at all, and here I am, covering healthcare for the better part of a decade and a half.
Yeah, well, at one point I could tell he must
Yeah.
have. I must have visibly shown I was out of my league because he said, "I'm really blowing your mind, aren't I?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah. All right, and with that, I'd like to thank our guests on MedHeads this week. Jared Johnson, live from Phoenix, the host of the Health IT Marketer podcast. You want to give the URL for that? Just give a quick plug.
You bet. That's healthitmarketer.com.
Healthitmarketer.com.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Nancy Fabosi, Frost and Sullivan, live from Denver.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks for joining us. And Sean Carroll, fresh off the red eye from Vegas, back home in Atlanta, from Arcadia Healthcare Solutions. Thanks all to you for joining on
Thanks, Neil.
MedHeads. I'm Neil Versel of MedCity News, wishing you all a wonderful weekend and a quick recovery from HIMSS if you were among the 42,000 who made it out here to Vegas this week. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks. Bye.